G'day, I'm Stephen Koukoulas, the economist in residence in Economic Security for Women. And there are so many issues going on that our discussion with the Parliamentary Friendship Group has been covering some of those key issues, ideas, proposals, and recommendations about how to fix many of these issues. And on the panel that gave a fantastic presentation were, in no particular order, Angela Tomazos from Business and Professional Women. BPW Australia is a community of women working to end gender inequality. Their members share an interest in the issues that affect working women in Australia and around the world. Her presentation was particularly interesting. Also on the panel, Alana Baston-Byrne from Fem Economy, who was also representing Rebel Wilson from Rural Women. And they're really trying to educate customers, budget owners, business owners on how purchasing decisions can impact gender equality. So her presentation was focusing on how our purchasing decisions and decisions of government can have that effect, and it blended in with the Rural Women's proposals about procurement, microfinance, because Rural Women is an innovative driven, creatively inspired, resistance building, productive, proactive support system for rural women around the world, connecting, learning and discovering together the topics that matter to them. From Financy was Bianca Hartke-Hazelman, and look, Financy is a wonderful platform that measures inequality. You know, one of the critical things we've got to realise that we've got to get the facts out there. What are the inequality issues? And Bianca's developed a women's index which measures women's financial progress towards gender equality. A long way to go, but her information, her advocacy of finding the facts is actually part of the building blocks, I suppose, that actually allows us to make our arguments, to make the case on why there is a problem and then what to do about it. Therese Edwards from the Council of Single Mothers and Their Children, well, her views are well known to many of us, and it's really about making sure that single mothers can have their lives improved, their children are well looked after. They do that through telephone and email support of single mothers, giving them a greater voice and advocating their rights in employment, income security, affordable childcare, housing, and the respectful treatment from government agencies. I recommend her views on those particular issues. Another really one, superannuation is a hot issue, and that superannuation gap remains wide. And Pascal Helya-More from Super Awards gave really interesting insights into how a very, well, seemingly simple rewards program can actually help boost the superannuation contributions of many women, both when they're in work, but also, interestingly, when they might be outside the workforce for a period of time, perhaps childbearing and these sorts of things, which are really important. So her presentation's also a really interesting one, particularly when it comes to super. And from the 100% Project, Shree Anderson, and in a sense, her views are about leadership and getting women, or equal numbers of men and women, into senior leadership roles, because we know the more senior the role is in the workforce, the more you get paid. And in fact, one of the critical reasons when we analyse the pay gap is that while women and girls have similar education, they start off pretty much close to break even. When they get through their work experience, something happens and they don't have that leadership. So in a sense that Shree's views are really looking to challenge the mindsets that shifts organisational practice so that real leadership potential can be fully realised for both men and women. I look forward to seeing the other contributors. It was a great event, and I recommend the ES4W and their members' advocacy going forward. So thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Angela Tomazos. I am the Vice President and Director of Policy of the Australian Federation of Business and Professional Women. We are a not-for-profit, all-volunteers advocacy organisation representing members since 1947. We are also a member organisation with the National Women's Alliance, Economic Security for Women. We teamed up with ES4W earlier this year to survey women on their experiences and expectations of the future of work. Our survey findings and insights were then discussed at roundtables, and a discussion and recommendation paper then prepared with the assistance of Stephen Koukoulas, economist in residence for ES4W. We found that what was on the minds of women across Australia was their lack of confidence in current policy settings valuing their work, valuing caring work and the value of work in women-led sectors at the same rate as non-care work. For example, the skills and pay for someone pushing the wheelbarrow versus someone pushing the wheelchair. How can we eliminate the gender pay gap in female-dominated sectors? Our ask of government is this. We have seen a proven model previously with the SCADS Award of 2010 that provided a transitional and sustainable minimum wage increase over 10 years. The model's already there. We asked to directly implement above average increases in award wages via representation to the Fair Work Commission for sectors of the economy with high proportion of female workers. The recommendation is for 0.5% pay increase over and above the general increase in pay. While all workers, men and women, in the nominated sectors would receive the pay boost, ES4W estimates the impact of our recommendation will permanently close the gap by approximately 4 percentage points over a decade. We also have an and with our request. We ask for reform that will reflect a structural change in how society values work equally for men and women. Amend the goals of the Fair Work Act and Fair Work Commission to establish pay equity in law and have an equal remuneration principle that will guide all decisions to ensure all workers are paid fairly. The importance of complete gender pay equality demands decisive policy action to bring about change. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cherie Anderson and I'm a director of the 100% project. Our vision is to see 100% of Australia's leadership talent, both female and male, contribute equally to our social and economic future. We do that through championing gender equality and by working with Australia's leading universities to produce research that helps to inform and influence better conversations, beliefs, policies and practices. We've been working closely with ES4W with particular focus on one of our research papers, which is leadership styles and gender imbalance. Through that research paper, we've identified 3 different leadership styles and one in particular, which is called adaptive leadership. It creates and fosters a culture in an organisation that fosters gender balance. We know that there is gender imbalance in Australia, particularly in executive leadership, which is something that impedes the economic well-being for women and men. We know that there is only 14 female CEOs in the ASX 200. The research shows that gender balance in leadership leads to improved financial and operational performance. What we'd like to see is the government supporting and implementing economic incentives for organisations, both in the private and public sector, to invest in the education and development of adaptive leadership programs. Gender imbalance in Australia's executive leadership cannot be addressed by market forces and the private sector alone. We need the support from the state, federal and territory governments to change this policy. And this policy will lead to addressing issues around gender pay gap and the economic security for women in Australia. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Pascal, founder and CEO of Super Awards. Super Awards is an award-winning, VC-backed fintech. We're a shopping platform where loyalty meets superannuation. At Super Awards, we offer over 400 of Australia's leading retailers: eBay, Apple, Appliances Online, Booktopia, The Iconic, Catch, the list goes on. Whenever you shop at one of those retailers through Super Awards, they pay cash back into your existing super account. So let's say I spend $100 at Country Road. Country Road pays $4 into my existing super account. Originally designed to help solve the gender super gap, Super Awards has become more important now than ever, following the early access to super measures as a result of COVID, where $36 billion came out of the superannuation system. Our asks of government are simple. Number 1, make Super Awards available to all those on parental leave and on benefits. When you're on parental leave or not earning an income, you're also not contributing to your super. So why not add to your super every day through buying the things you have to anyway? Buying nappies, pet food, new appliances, the list goes on. It seems like a really simple solution. The other thing we would ask of government is to leverage an existing infrastructure and concept already in place, the government co-contribution. This is where, when you earn less than $40,000 approximately, and you pay over $1,000 of your own into your super, the government matches up to a further $500. So let's say that in any one tax year, I earn $500 of super awards. Through linking our systems up, that is, super awards and the government's, we would be able to collect or take advantage of the government co-contribution for that particular user, adding another $250 automatically. The government co-contribution is a wonderful concept, but sadly not enough people know about it. So all we're proposing here is that we interlink our systems so that super awards users automatically collect the government co-contribution, and conversely, those who are earning less than $40,000 a year are given a super awards account automatically. Thanks for listening.
Single mother families are some of our poorest in Australia. We don't need it to be that. Let's make a couple of policy changes. I start first of all with our income support system. Currently, single mums on income support are moved off parenting payment when their youngest child turns 8, effectively reducing their fortnightly income up to $200. We are saying to them that you are now unemployed and not providing that essential unpaid care, that parenting labour that we just take for granted. This happens if the mum is studying or cobbling together some part-time, low-paid work, and distressingly, if she's a victim survivor of family and domestic violence. There is no exemption. The second policy is our child support bill, which has ballooned out to $1.7 billion, and that is an underestimation because it doesn't take into account private collector grant agreements, even though they are part of the child support system, or debts that have been written off over the year. Two simple solutions: ensure that everyone who has a child support agreement lodges a tax return. We would then have accurate and up-to-date income, and we would sever the option for those who enter into both tax and child support evasion. I don't know why anyone would consider that an issue. The second point, incentivise payments by relating them to credit ratings. Simple, straightforward asks, and we should be able to do so much better for single mother families.
Hello, I'm Bianca Hachi-Hazelman, founder of the Financial Women's Index and the financial literacy and data insights platform, financy.com.au. As someone who advocates for the financial progress of women towards gender equality, it's my ask to government to work more closely with government on the Women's Index specifically. So the Women's Index tracks and measures the quarterly progress of Australian women across a number of data sets, and we look at 7 key areas of gender gaps, such as a gender pay gap, superannuation gap, even the gap in unpaid work. And we're gathering official, publicly available statistics and other quality statistics that are out there to really create this picture that makes it easier for the public and the media and organisations to understand where Australia stands and answer the question, are women progressing or not? It's an important one. Now, at the moment, the media reach of the Women's Index organically is 500,000 per quarter, according to stream monitors, and that is really quite good. So the olive branch is out there to government to work with us on what it looks like to better inform policy, to better track initiatives that are out there, and to also show women that we are doing something. The other additional thing that I'd like to work with government on is the Economic Equality Pact. We've set a target of 2030 to reach 6 key centrepiece initiatives. Consultations with the public are now open, so submissions are invited, and it's certainly something that we would love to hear from government on as well.
Hello, my name's Rebel Black and I'm the founder of the Rural Woman. Our purpose is the advancement of rural women and girls, and our mission is the connection of rural women and assisting them to improve well-being, financial security and agency. And we do this through education, training, mentoring, networking and financial opportunities. Some of the issues that we've identified include isolation and a lack of access to networks and new markets, to high quality accessible education, and to finance. These have compounding issues for the women in our communities and hold them apart from true economic and social security. Two of the areas that we've specifically identified in partnership with Economic Security for Women are around procurement and access to finance, and particularly microfinance for micro enterprises. So these are areas where we've seen an opportunity, a policy opportunity, for us to make large advancements for a significant number of rural women to improve their economic security. We've seen fantastic outcomes for the Indigenous community through the procurement policies that Supply Nation have enacted, the education, the connections to new markets, and then also the policy requirements for Indigenous procurement. We would like to explore the opportunities for a similar program to be rolled out through the Rural Woman for women-led enterprises in rural communities, to explore the idea of procurement quotas and also networking, education and pathways for new markets. In terms of finance, we're very excited to be exploring the possibility of both an investment fund and a lending bucket of funds that enable us to get fast access to low cost, low value loans, sub $10,000 for women-led micro enterprises in rural communities that are specifically targeted, and also the women are provided with education and mentoring to ensure a very low risk loan. And we'd also love to improve the investment of rural women. We're teaching women to be both great borrowers and great investors, so that we would have an investment arm of this same fund that rural women could also invest in. So there are lots of things to explore. Those are two policy areas we would really invite a conversation around further if it's of interest in your portfolio. May you bloom where you are.
Governments are seeking ways to increase women's employment, and women-owned businesses can be part of the solution. A business with a female founder and a female executive will employ 6 times more women. So to support these businesses, FemEconomy and the Rural Woman have 3 recommendations. 1. Implement gender equality procurement principles to increase women-owned businesses in supply chains. 2. Establish a microfinance facility. And 3. Change the eligibility criteria for the federal government Entrepreneurs Program. So firstly, procurement. Women-owned businesses account for about 34.8% of Australian businesses, yet globally they access less than 1% of the procurement market. This gap presents an opportunity to create a social and economic impact. We've seen the difference Indigenous procurement policies have made. Indigenous businesses contribute more than $1 billion to the economy, and this grows each year. And gender equality procurement is not a new thing. In the US, supplier diversity has been legislated and systemised for over a decade. The benefit for companies is they receive tax breaks when they buy from minority or women-led businesses. The benefit to Australia is that when more women work, economies grow. And EY has recently released an Australian report recommending that large Australian businesses have a 3% spend to women-owned businesses. The second recommendation is to establish a microfinance facility for women in rural, regional and remote Australia. This facility would make small loans to women unable to access, traditional banking methods, but they would do that on a commercial basis with the usual terms and conditions. For those wanting to set up a business, the amount of funds is quite small. It's really between $3,000 and $10,000. And to establish the fund, around $10 million would be required. The scheme would also offer financial training to borrowers. Small businesses are a large part of the Australian economy and the least assisted. So over 9 in 10 businesses in Australia are small businesses. 15% of small businesses report receiving any form of government support, compared to 57% of large businesses. This financial facility would diversify rural economies. The third recommendation is making the federal government Entrepreneurs Program more inclusive of women-owned businesses. FemEconomy has been referring eligible members into this program for years, and it is a great program. It's systemised and it's national. We recommend 2 changes. 1, reduce the turnover threshold for women-owned businesses to $750,000 a year, which is the same as rural and northern Australia. And 2, that women-owned businesses, at least 50% owned, are recognised as a growth sector in Australia. Over the last 2 decades, there's been a 46% increase in women-owned businesses compared to 27% of men. This is clearly a growth sector of the economy. Lastly, all of these recommendations directly support Towards 2025, an Australian government strategy to boost women's workforce participation. The International Monetary Fund states, when more women work, economies grow. Women-owned businesses are an important vehicle to increase women's workforce participation and to grow the Australian economy.